local community. Rogers TV is proud to support local producers and share local voices, ideas, and opinions. For more information, please visit our website.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben Strasser, and I'm now joined by longtime friend, Becca. We were just talking about how we've been doing this. This will be our 9th year together. I feel like you've been on and involved with each year of KickBack.
I think that's quite possible.
Yeah.
I don't really remember.
It's a blur. It's a blur. And it's just been, you're also a neighbor.
Yeah.
You live down the street, and the story that I wanted to share today was one that you shared at some point. Was it in the fall? Was it in the summer?
Sometime in the fall.
It was in the fall,
yeah.
And you had this beautiful story that you shared online, and I just wanted to really touch on this and shine a light on the importance of community and the importance of knowing your neighbors. And so I just wanted you to share the story and what you experienced back earlier in the fall.
Sure thing. Well, I guess the background piece is that I grew up without a lot of safe adults in my life. Mm-hmm. And as I got into social service work and started working in the youth services sector, I realized that was the case for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that there were a lot of youth, especially, who just needed safe people to talk to. And so in my neighborhood, there's a playground right near my house, and it is a very busy playground. And I like to walk my dog through there because my dog is really good with kids, and the kids love my dog.
Right.
And so through my dog, I have gotten to know a lot of these kids.
Right.
They'll run up and they'll pet him, and they're learning dog etiquette. Like, can I pet him today?
Yeah.
The answer is always yes, because he's a really good boy.
Yeah. So if he's watching at home, right? Good boy.
Yeah. So I built connections with a lot of these kids through my dog. And so one day I'm walking my dog, and I am listening to my headphones. Nothing's going on, except that one of my little friends is across the street, yells my name at the top of her lungs, drops her bike, and runs across the street to me and says, "We need help." And I said, okay, and I'm pulling out my headphones, pretending I wasn't listening to them. And so she tells me what's going on. She says, one of my friends is at risk of suicide. She used kid terms when she described it, but she said, we're all looking for him. And I look around, and all of these kids are looking all serious. They're running around, they're yelling orders to each other. I said, oh boy. And so I got some more information. I said, what does he look like? How old is he? What's he wearing? Where is he? And so I got some information, and I looked, and at a close by rail bridge, there's a kid matching this description walking across the bridge. It was pretty scary. And so immediately I get on the phone with 911, because first responders, most of them are actually quite trained in mental health de-escalation. And I'm the type of person in a neighborhood who calls the police whenever there's something. I'll often call just the station, say, if there's not a big deal. But when it's serious, it's 911. So I'm on the phone with 911, and they're getting as much information as they can. Their officers are already on the way, but this kid is on the bridge. And so I'm scurrying over to the bridge myself, and I see another kid climb up with him and coax him down off the bridge. And I'm realizing that these kids, and they're about the same height as my oldest son, and he's 11. So they're all in the ballpark of age 11. They're saving each other's butts. And so he comes down, and I kind of follow him and make sure that he's safe, and then eventually I direct the police to where he is to help him with de-escalation. I didn't have a prior relationship with this kid, so I didn't want to just freak him out. And then I noticed that there were some boys watching as the police met up with him and started talking him down. And so they gave me some information about what was going on. They said, this is what happened earlier. And so I said, okay, thank you for telling me. I relay the information to the police. And I say, can you tell all the other kids that he's going to be okay? And so And you did a good job, guys, because they were part of this crew that was looking out for their friend.
Right, and how incredible is that these 10, 11, 12-year-olds had the wherewithal, like, to actually go out there and search and to, like, just to navigate that. Like, right? Like, just, you think of kids being so young that they're not going to be aware of that, or that they're not struggling with things at that level, and for the kids to understand what was going on and take it serious enough to be able to go out and search and look, and then to be able to grab the attention of somebody that they knew and trusted in their community is just incredible.
Well, it was frustrating to some extent, because these kids were so young, dealing with such serious issues. And so I circled back to the playground, the busy playground, and a lot of these kids were in a huddle, kind of yelling at each other and accusing each other of being to blame for their friend's suicidal ideation.
Right.
And I stopped them and I said, guys, you did a really good job looking out for your friend. If this happens again, this is what you should do. Thank you for looking out for him. And also, moving forward, just be kind to him and don't let him feel embarrassed for this happening.
Right.
And they trusted me. They heard what I was saying and cared, and I had some social leverage with them because of the dog.
Right.
And that was really cool, because if I had been a stranger, my little friend wouldn't have contacted me, and I probably, with my headphones, wouldn't have noticed what was going on.
Or wouldn't have taken it serious enough to do that, not having some form of personal relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And what this told me was that this investment, however small I've made, in just building a relationship with these neighborhood kids means something, but also you can't be blind to the types of things that kids are dealing with too, because this was a big deal. Right.
Well, and now they've had that experience, and now they need to live with that and understand that and move forward with that. But I think it's something, it's as simple as not just walking into your house and ignoring the kids playing on the street or the sidewalk or whatever, and just saying hello. Right. And just like so many people, I feel like until my wife, we moved in together, I didn't really know my neighbors.
Yeah.
And then it was her that started engaging our neighbors and having those conversations and making those connections. And all of a sudden we had a porch, and we're sitting on the porch having coffee. And now we know some of the kids that live in the area. And I'd like to think that if there was an issue, they would feel comfortable and safe to talk to one of us about something that was going on. But I think it's just important for the audience to know that those little interactions mean something, right? Like whether it's kids or whether it's seniors or whether it's whoever your neighbors are, those little interactions make a big difference.
And even in a crisis prevention sense, to just be greeted by name when you're in the driveway is so nice.
Right.
Like, how lonely could a person be feeling one day, and how medicinal is it to be greeted, to be told, I see you, I acknowledge your existence, and I like you. Right. It's small, but it really, really adds up, because we're such a overstimulated yet really isolated group of people.
For that social connection in our neighborhoods, right? And so I just really appreciate you taking the time to share this. Thank you for being a light in our neighborhood and in our community. And I just really appreciate you sharing this story today. And we'll be right back after this.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hey, we're Chris and Cam. We are the hosts of What's Buzzin' right here on Rogers TV. We are that show that chats all things trending, interviewing local guests, and we embarrass ourselves a little bit too. That happens.
Yeah, honestly, we're that talk show you definitely want to check out. We're super fun. We have on local guests, and things that you want to check out in the community, you can check out on What's Buzzin'.
Yeah, it starts here.
Starts
We're gonna have
here.
a lot of fun. And that happens on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. on Rogers TV.
My name is Matthew Rutledge. I'm a 60 scoop survivor, born in Red Lake. Was adopted from there to Toronto at the age of 4. A lot of our brothers and sisters, family members got separated from each other. That was the government's goal, to break that connection from brothers and sisters. Basically taking the Indian out of the child. Right now, they're still trying to find themselves. Originally, my birth name is Harvey Halverson. In my high school days, teens, I was trying to fit into society. I knew I was First Nations, but I didn't know who I was inside. I think later in life, I started that journey. I am proud, Nishnawbe man, of who I am now. I love life, who I am.
Hello, welcome to Lions TV Bingo. An announcement, we are now on Mondays. Yes, every Monday from now on, Lions TV Bingo is going to be here on Rogers, and we're off like a herd of turtles. Roll 29. 4 $500 prizes, one $3,500 prize, all the trivia you can imagine, and some of my bad jokes. We'll see you this Monday.
David Prang from the Chamber of Commerce Brantford Brant speaks with community members about events and organizations that impact the city of Brantford and the county of Brant. Chamber TV, Thursdays at 6:30 p.m., right here on Rogers TV.
When I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, I was deteriorating in front of everybody.
All my life I lived with sickle cell. I went through a tragic crisis that put me in a coma for 3 weeks. While I was in there, I received a lot of blood to put me in a healthier state.
I was given the plasma then through IVIG. Even though that happened so long ago, it still has a massive impact on me today.
Thanks to donors, I can live another life.
Because of you, I will be seeing my grandchild.
Hello and welcome to another episode of KickBack. I'm so excited to be joined by my friend Bernie. Bernie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for having me on.
Today you've got your lovely Lost Bandit hat on, and how convenient is that? Because we are talking about cycling and just what that's meant for you and your mental health. And I'm just really interested to hear how cycling started for you.
I think we need to explain, you talked about Lost Bandit and then you talked about cycling and what do raccoons have to do with biking. So
Right.
I am the owner of Lost Bandit Bike Co. out of Paris, Ontario, bike shop. And yeah, thank you for having me on to talk about biking.
Right. And so when did your biking start? And I mean, we're on Kickback, so we're talking in relation to mental health. When did you kind of first realize that mountain biking or riding a fat tire bike was something that helped you with your mental health?
Interesting you say when it realized it helped with it, because I think it's really different. I mean, the first time I put a smile on my face on a bike was, I don't know, 4 years old. I don't know when you first get on a bike. And it's interesting that you, looking back at your childhood, there's usually a gap where you didn't bike. But as a kid, I don't know about you, but I biked everywhere. And it's just what you did. And now you see groups of kids biking, and there's movies, and the kids have like a little bike gang, and they're smiling.
A card in the tire, the spokes, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a gap in our life where we don't, or for myself, speaking for myself, didn't bike much. And maybe that was just you get older, more responsibilities, and you kind of forget there's certain things that just go to the back burner. And when did I get back into it? It was during the pandemic. There just wasn't much to do, and you had to be outside, which I didn't hate, but it was kind of winter, and I was watching this whole like fat biking thing. I'm like, that looks like a lot of fun. You've got the big tires, and it just looks cool. And you couldn't get a fat bike anywhere.
Right. It was such a strange time.
It was a strange time, and everyone was buying up these outdoor sports things, and I actually had a friend that was selling one, and I jumped on it, and he's like, every Thursday night or Sunday morning we ride in Turkey Point. He's like, come on out. I'm like, sure. And I hadn't biked in years, and or not much more than just around the block or whatever. And I went out, and I almost died. Like it was terrible. And I couldn't keep up. I was out of breath, and we finally got back to the parking lot and just standing there chatting, and I felt amazing. I was exhausted, but I was like, that was awesome. And I started going out every Sunday, and every Sunday it hurt a bit less, the ride.
Right.
And I just kind of kept going on with that. Every Sunday going out and riding, and started figuring out that yes, it was about the ride, but it was also about the community that it built, and there was this physical exercise. And when you're out on a bike, you're not on your phone, you're not thinking about, and for me, it's more mountain biking, and it's you can't think about what bill needs to be paid. You can't think about like the chores you need to be doing at home. You're thinking about not hitting that tree. You're
Yeah,
thinking
that tree right there.
this climb, and it's for me, it was a sense of there's an hour out of your day where you can't think about anything else except riding. And I feel like more people need to get back on their bike.
Right.
Just as bring it back to being a kid and put that smile back on your face. And the first time you get back out on it, it's going to hurt. Like it may not be fun,
Right.
but it gets better.
Well, and I remember, I think you were the person that got me back on my bike, and similar experience to like always being on a bike as a kid and then just not. And then all of a sudden you're out there doing your thing in Turkey Point, and that's not something that I joined in on. But I remember we went for a little ride, and I just felt like I was going to be sick.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a good time, right? Like it's like you get past that and you get over that, and yes, the exercise is a huge part of that, but you're right, the community adds so much to that. And just like when you joined that group, how many of the people inside of that club did you know?
I knew one
Right.
guy, and the other people I'd kind of heard of, but I didn't really know them that well. And so that was, I don't know, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And now, actually, that guy I got connected with, and we are for the second year doing an ice road challenge.
Right.
And it is up north, Red Lake. We're riding from Red Lake to Pekanjikam First Nations, and it's about 127 kilometers on a fat bike in one day. And it's
Just a little bit of a journey.
it's a journey, and I feel like it's not something I normally do, like that period of time riding.
Right.
And it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's a community of people, and I think that's just I feel like everyone should push themselves to the limit every quarter, maybe.
Yeah.
Like find something that will push you, and maybe that's riding a bike, maybe that's running, maybe that's just going for a walk, whatever that is. Just push yourself a little bit further, and I feel like that has helped me with kind of pushing through some mental health issues, and just distracting yourself from certain things, not avoiding things, but like taking yourself somewhere else. And for me, riding a bike is that somewhere else, and has helped me.
Right. And what does that feel like when you do, like when you did cross that finish line in Pekanjikam last year? What does that feel
Just
like?
a flood of emotions. It's just that whole, you've just spent the last hour being like, I don't think I can do this, and down on yourself for the last 2 hours of, there's no way I can finish this. And then you finish, and it's just that your body's just completely drained. physically, mentally, and it's just wonderful.
And we've got about a minute left. For somebody that's watching at home right now, what would you say to them that's maybe they're that person that hasn't been back on their bike since they were a kid? What would you say to them?
Go to your garage, get your bike, put some air in the tires. They'll be flat, but it's fine. The tubes probably don't have holes in it. They just got flat over time. And go for a ride. And don't be discouraged that you're like, oh, I need a new seat because my butt hurts or whatever. Your legs hurt. They will burn. You're starting a new exercise. But just go for a little ride. Don't try to go and do a ton of kilometers. Just get out and try to get out every day and find some friends that maybe at your skill level and just get out and ride.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Bernie.
Steph here from The Cruise TV, the show where we talk about the people and stories behind the coolest cars on the road. Join us on Sundays at 8 p.m.
Smudging is a very important part in our life as we're all learning to walk the good way. When we smudge, we use the sacred medicine, the white sage, the sweetgrass, the tobacco, and the cedar. It cleanses negative energy and replaces it by a positive energy. When I smudge, I cleanse my end and my eagle feather and start cleansing my breath to have better words. I will smudge my eyes so I could see the better things offered to me. I will smudge my ears to hear the good thing that people have to say. I will smudge my hair to have good thinking from my head. I will bring the smudge to my feet so I could walk in respect with our Mother, the Earth. Smudging is the way we give our prayers to connect our spirit to the Creator. We express gratitude for the gift of life, the learning, and growth.
Personal finance show that dares to ask those money questions you've always wanted to. Join Mike Bregueth when he talks with experts on all aspects of money. Money Matters with Mike Bregueth, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I'm sure right now a lot of you feel like you aren't able to be who you truly are.
What's most important, more important than everybody else knowing who you are, is that you know who you are.
As a young person, time moves slower for you. And just know that things will get better.
It Gets Better Canada is a registered Canadian charity with a focus on uplifting our queer youth through the power of digital storytelling.
As a Two-Spirit person, I use they, them pronouns, but that's not the case for every Two-Spirit person.
There are so many voices out there that we didn't have 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
No matter what your mind tells you, you really are perfect the way you are, so stop beating yourself up so much.
I'm gonna be a boy in a dress, because why not?
Your identity is explosive.
We all have our unique journeys, but one thing that connects us all is the desire to be happy, the desire to celebrate being our authentic selves.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrival Live smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivallive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben Strasser, and I'm excited to have my friends Susan Stewart and Deb Forbeck join us in studio today. And I'm excited when you had approached me with the idea to share both sides of your story. I thought that was such a great idea to be able to do that and to be able to see it from all angles. Susan, you joined us last year and shared your story, and then you were just in the middle of kicking off a comedy tour. And so I'm excited to hear how that's been going, what the feedback has been. And so I just want to jump in and get started. Susan, can you share a little bit about your story, just for the individuals that don't know what your story is?
Okay, where do we start the story? Well, my mental health journey has been a long one. And to make a long story shorter, when I started doing comedy, like in the early 2000s, I fell into a clinical depression and suffered really high level of anxiety, which led me to make the decision to step away from comedy. Yeah, I just couldn't seem to just have the confidence and the creativity and the courage to get on stage anymore with my illness. So I quit. Anyway, I did recover, and I took a long break away from comedy. And then in the spring of 2023, last year, I fell into a clinical depression again and suffered again the high level of anxiety. This time, it led to a mental health crisis the summer, which then led to hospitalization, which then led to me being admitted to the Homewood Health Center in Guelph, where I completed a 9-week recovery treatment program. So 2023 was not a great year.
Right.
And so I re-entered the world in the late fall of 2023. And my partner, Deb, strongly suggested that I write about it.
Right.
That, there could be a show about this. And at first I'm like, what?
Right.
What do you mean a mental health comedy show? And like, how am I going to find the funny in this? And anyway, it was a bit of a far out concept at first. But I would say once I got in, I was into my recovery. I had, grieved leaving Homewood, which is a whole really interesting thing. It was actually hard to leave. It was hard to go, but then it was hard to leave. So it was around the new year, January 2024, when I started developing the show and then kicked it off in March.
Right, and what has the feedback been like for you?
It has been overwhelmingly positive. People are blown away at how I wrote it with a buddy of mine, how my buddy Kelly and I were able to find the humor in topics like depression and anxiety without crossing a line.
Right.
We don't want to make fun of mental illness, but there's still some humor to be seen about it. So I think that's the first reaction is, oh my God, how did you make that funny?
Right.
And then I think there's just been a lot of appreciation for my vulnerability, my willingness to share.
Right, share it all.
The kind of ugly parts of the journey. I think the honesty has really, resonated with people. And like I said, I think there's just been a lot of gratitude for validating those struggles that people have.
Right, and I think that just plays into people not talking about it enough, right? Like not just being like, oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. And just using humor as an educational tool as well, I think it's brilliant to be able to do that and tie that together to make it entertaining, to talk about such a serious concept, right?
Something that I have come to understand just as working in comedy for years is comedy takes away serious topics' power, right? Just diminishes the hold that certain darker topics have on us. Right. I think when we're able to laugh at something, it just puts it into perspective. It just reduces, its enormity.
Right.
So I think, people have appreciated just being able to create that distance between something like depression and themselves. Like we can, we're able to kind of just see it in a different light. I just think it's important. depression and anxiety are very serious topics, but I don't think we need to take ourselves so seriously in our experience with them.
Right.
If that makes
No, that does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Deb, what was it like for you to, like, what was it that you saw in that moment in Susan to be able to say, hey, Suze, you need to write about this?
Honestly, for Susan, the creative outlet is where she finds peace. Right. So being able to, put something together that is, part of her experience, and then add that comedic kind of piece to it. I just knew it would be therapeutic. It was definitely going to be something, and this was something that she needed to walk through. She needed to, we needed to back up. We needed to walk through the different, elements of our experience with mental health and up into leading to her crisis. And that was going to be an important part of the journey as well, is reliving that and understanding all the different aspects of it. And because I think from my perspective working with Susan, there's lots of things along that journey that she doesn't remember, or or her perspective on it looks a little different than what potentially reality was. So I think it was really helpful.
Yeah, I can't thank Deb enough for just giving me that, very strong nudge to take on the project, because it was deeply healing for me. Like, I can't say enough about writing it out. Like, I've never been one for journaling, but I do know what it's like to write a show about something deeply personal and something really difficult. But it just helped me to normalize it for myself, and just to find meaning in it too. I mean, I got the privilege to be on stage and put on this show for people to see. Perhaps not everyone has that kind of platform, but helping others through this story, sharing this story, has been like, it's again just so healing, deeply therapeutic process. Once again, making people laugh, that's always been healing for me. But to then, be of service, by sharing, these hard topics.
Right, and I think that's something that's so cool, and we're gonna jump to Deb's point of view through this right after this break. But I just think that that's something so cool about individuals that go through those trials, or they face something hard, difficult, right? And they then the answer to that is to go out and help others by sharing what they just went through. And so I thank you for doing that, for sharing your story. And Deb, thank you for giving her the push to do so. But we'll be right back after this break.
Hello, welcome to Lions TV Bingo. An announcement: we are now on Mondays. Yes, every Monday from now on, Lions TV Bingo is going to be here on Rogers, and we're off like a herd of turtles. Roll 29. 4 $500 prizes, one $3,500 prize, all the trivia you can imagine, and some of my bad jokes. We'll see you this Monday.
Do you like talk radio? Catch a televised simulcast of The Mike Farwell Show. Listen to callers rant or rave. Watch interviews with guests on topics impacting your community. The Mike Farwell Show, weekdays from 10 till noon on Rogers TV.
Heartbeat of Mother Earth, I feel you and embrace your warmth. I see you dancing through the trees. Your song floats on the summer breeze. Community, we come together. We are the voice of our ancestors. Thankful for how much you bless us. Feel the thunder in the drum. All our voices sing as one. Feel the power, feel the pride. Feel the drumbeat deep inside. Feel the boom, feel the bass. Let's let go of time and space. It'll make you dance, it'll make you sing. Ode Wegun Wedok Wishin. The drum will lead you, take you far. Always remember who you are.
Personal finance show that dares to ask those money questions you've always wanted to. Join Mike Bregueth when he talks with experts on all aspects of money. Money Matters with Mike Bregueth, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm Stacey Bester, the host of Sweet Occasions here on Rogers TV. I'm so looking forward to season 7, where we're serving up both sweet and savory dishes. I hope you'll tune in and enjoy all of the flavors that we have for you. And don't forget to make every day a sweet occasion.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Welcome back. My name is Ben Strasser, and this is KickBack. Again, we are joined by Susan and Deb. Both, thank you so much for being here today. Before the break, Susan, we were talking more about your perspective on the mental health crisis that you faced just last year. And now, before the break there, we were just talking, I thanked you for being open and sharing your story. And then during the break, Deb, you mentioned like why that's important, and you talked about the gaps. Can you just elaborate on that for the viewers?
So my background is in healthcare, and I understand that there's multiple gaps particularly in mental health. So I feel like the important piece for us was, where did we have those pitfalls? Where were the gaps in services? Where were the gaps in treatment? All of those key pieces. And I think one of the most important parts for us was, how do we help fill some of those gaps for folks? How do we, in some cases it's reducing the stigma so that people feel like they're going to be able to get the help that they need when they need it. And in some cases it's, what route did you take to get the best possible services that you needed in that moment? And so I think it was, I really felt an obligation to help people navigate the course.
Right, and I think it's cool that you will be able to now be able to share. Cool is not the right word, but I think it's wonderful now that you've taken that stance to be able to, you've had that experience together, and now you're able to share from both sides of that coin, to the one that's experiencing the crisis, to the one that is supporting the one in crisis. And oftentimes, both sides are not talked about enough, but hardly is it the person that is doing the supporting, do they get that opportunity to share their stories, to be able to help others, just as you're saying that, right? Like not necessarily even the one that is in crisis that you're helping navigate the hospital and like those pieces. It's the people that are at home taking the person there or dealing with that person and how best to do that. So can you just share a little bit about what your experience was from that initial time?
So what I've learned, and I'm a nurse by background, so you would think that I would be quite accustomed to providing support and through anybody's healthcare journey, but in fact, this was really my, kind of premier experience with a mental health crisis. And in fact, it was far more difficult than I ever anticipated. I think the piece that is going to be really important for me is there is not really a lot of support for the supporting characters in this journey, right? You have, and rightly so, you have all the energy and expertise and resources going towards the person in crisis. That's the most important piece, including all of the people at home and friends and family and all of those pieces, which were so important. So a lot of the time when people were asking how to help, they couldn't go and see Susan most of the time. so they really were just asking what was going to help for me. And so in most cases, what I would say is reach out to the people going through that. Find out what's going to help to get them through these crises. And I know some days, I was there every day, and some days were hard because the previous day was not a good day, or you got a phone call and you knew that today wasn't going to be a good day, that they were maybe not in a great space, and their coping was not great, and so but you knew you still had to go in anyway. There was moments outside of the mental health unit where I walked in and there's a bench, and I will remember this bench forever. I just sat on the bench. I needed to pull it together so that when I arrived, I was in a good place. So I think one of the big pieces for me is rely on your friends and family. They're asking because they really do want to support you, and they want to support Susan. So she had this amazing group of friends and family that, when they went in and brought meals or just sat with a coffee, it meant that I didn't have to go in that day, because it just, there was somebody there that was staying with her that provided the support. And that was one day that I was just, okay, I can just take a little bit of a breather here and just get through my own day. Because the world doesn't stop when a mental health crisis happens, right? You've still got all the other things in the world to work on, and it's hard. Yeah, it's really hard.
Well, in fact, it happened when Deb started a new job. So, timing is everything. So that was an extra pressure. Yeah. And so I would say that in my recovery, I've had to wrestle with self-compassion and self-forgiveness for what I put Deb and my family and my friends through. Right.
Yeah, there's a lot that's not talked about, right? When you go through something like this. And I think, did you receive, when people reached out and said, how can we help? How can we help Susan? How can we help you? What does that look like? Did you say, oh, we'll let you know? Or did you say, oh, this?
Probably, it felt numb. It just felt, in our particular situation, it was like one big thing after another, and I was navigating it just as new as anyone else. So I really didn't know what to ask for, right? And so when people said that they would, when they reached out to Susan or when they, came to visit, that was on their own, and that was after maybe one or two people had done it. I was like, that's it. That's the thing. That's what I need. I need you to help support Susan, because I'm having trouble doing this alone.
Right. And what would you say to, maybe there's an audience member that is experiencing this right now in their own lives. What would you suggest to them to, just navigate that situation?
Don't forget about yourself. Because I know it's said a million times over, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. So fill your cup, make sure you have what you need. Take a step back if you need to. They're likely in a safe spot, and they're getting the support that they need. And so if you're not there for a day, if you have to step back and look after you, then do that. And don't feel bad about that. That's probably it. And therapy.
Right.
It's a really big piece of making sure that you are healing as well.
Right. And Susan, what did it mean for you to have Deb in your life at that point?
I consider myself extremely lucky, and I understand that this isn't everyone's experience. So to have a supportive partner who didn't run screaming, who demonstrated that unconditional love, and then the circle of family and friends. I really don't know if I could have recovered like I have without them.
Right.
I don't think so.
It's so important.
I just never felt alone. in the darkest point in my life.
Right. And thank you both. Unfortunately, we have to go now, but thank you both so much for coming in today to share your story. We really appreciate it. And with that, we'll be right back after this.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every 4 Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, she may not get the help she needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
For me, the end was just the beginning. I felt I must come. If I did not come at once, it would be too late. And these places that are watered with the best blood of Canada might only be names and memories. I see it in the soldiers, the grief I know so intimately. And I will not abandon these men to it. The isolation wears on me. Slowly, the silence takes over, as if my heart has given out of air. I cannot talk. I can only paint.
For more than 2 years, Mary Ryder Hamilton painted the battlefields of the First World War, creating an unforgettable visual record of service and sacrifices at immense personal cost.
Hey guys, Steph here from The Cruise TV, the show where we talk about the people and stories behind the coolest cars on the road. Join us on Sundays at 8 p.m.
We invite you to play What's My Line?
Welcome, Mrs. Baker. Those folks over there need to guess your extraordinary occupation.
Are you an entertainer, Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Do people come to watch you, perform?
Yes. Do you travel for work? Yes, I do.
Do you ever wear a special type of costume?
Yes.
Is your job, physical?
Yes, indeed.
Are you a member of a team?
Yes. Are you a professional baseball player? Yes, I am.
Created during the Second World War, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League included 68 Canadians. One of its brightest stars was my mother, Saskatchewan's Mary Bonnie Baker, a pioneer for women in sports.
Do you like talk radio? Catch a televised simulcast of The Mike Farwell Show. Listen to callers rant or rave. Watch interviews with guests on topics impacting your community. The Mike Farwell Show, weekdays from 10 till noon on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben Strasser, and I'm joined by Nikki Straza. Nikki, thank you so much for joining me in studio today.
Thanks for having me, Ben. It's always great to be here and chatting with you.
I feel like this is your 9th year of being on and sharing with us. So
we've been pretty close. Yeah. I think there's the odd year admits, but yes.
But I just think that that's so cool. But I'm really interested to jump into what you're talking about because it's different than previous years.
That is true.
And so I'm excited to hear what you want to share, specifically revolving around like workplace culture.
Yeah.
And mental health and how they're tied together. So can you share a little bit about what that means to you and is?
Yeah, well, I have, and I'm sure you too, and those listening have met people whose workplace does not contribute to their mental well-being. Right. It actually can be very toxic and draining. And, you know, I've experienced this in my own life. I've witnessed people I care about, be victim to those moments. And I've also seen people I care about be so supported in those moments as well. And it's really painted a picture of the opportunity we have as leaders to create an environment for our staff and our teams that actually nurtures their well-being, not just gets a job done. And I think the tide is starting to change in the environment around that. The conversation is starting to change because I think there are some things that need to change in workplace.
Yeah. What do you think is driving that change?
I think there's several factors. I think COVID opened the can of worms, as it were. Nothing like a complete screeching halt to help you focus your priorities and come to grapple with, why do I put up with what I put up with?
Right.
And so COVID certainly opened that conversation. But I think our younger generations, our millennials and our Gen Zs, are driving a more balanced and holistic approach to care and well-being and workplace environments, because people aren't interested in being treated as a robot or, a mark on an assembly line. Right. They actually have insights and creativity and innovations they want to bring, personality they want to bring to the workplace. And in order to do that, there needs to be some safety, and there needs to be that place where who I am is actually appreciated and valued. And I love that. I think that's a necessary and important change that our young people are inviting us to. But of course, with every change, especially when it's invited by our young people, us old people can sometimes get stuck in the mud and think we're right and become resistant to change. And so I'm hoping that we can have a conversation between the generations about the wisdom and the assets that each generation brings to the table, and how we can learn better to listen to each other. And I think when we can do that, work becomes a place we all want to show up to. We feel a sense of significance and belonging and inclusion in that workplace environment, that we're all working towards, whatever that goal might be. And those are important feelings. And I think as humans, we all want to feel like our work matters.
Yeah, and that you belong.
Yeah. And that we're a part of a team that cares about more than just my productivity and my output.
And is it along the lines of, what are we working towards? Like, what's like the big picture here of what we're doing? Like, we're not just screwing in this bowl here, we're trying to get somewhere. Is that what the younger generation's bringing?
Well, I think it's that perspective of leveraging the diversity within the team, right? And the fact that, because this has always been the way we've done it, every young generation, myself included, was like, wait, there's a new and better way to do this, and I have some tools. What I'm seeing in our younger generation is not only are they bringing innovation and high tech to workplaces, but they're bringing a different expectation around emotional intelligence and expectation around empathy at work. And that's changing the narrative. And not every workplace is ready for that conversation because the way it has been working, well, in their minds has been working.
Right.
But I think this evolution is long overdue. But we're getting an opportunity to lead differently, lead holistically, and lead with empathy. And that actually reduces stress for leaders too. Right. And so not only is the well-being of our staff being considered, but we're able to now say, as leaders, your well-being matters too. And how do we support you in that leadership role that can sometimes be very, very stressing?
Right, and what does that look like? So we'll talk about both sides of that, but as an employee that is not in like management role, maybe a junior person that's come on and they see that vision and they want those things, what are things that they can do to to help start to create that culture inside of the workplace?
I love that question, because so often we put the responsibility of culture creation on the boss, on HR. Right. But I love that you invited us to this conversation, that we all contribute to the culture at work, because you're 100% right. We do. And I think the first thing that is critical for all of us to contribute to is safety. It's not just my boss's job to create safety for me. I also have a responsibility to create safety for my peers and for my boss as well. Right. And often we don't talk about that mutuality in the responsibility of making this a place where every employee's dignity is preserved even in the face of conflict. Right. And that I think is huge, because it might not be okay for our boss to come and, lambaste us and call us names and give us what for and accuse us of whatever. Right. That isn't okay. Yeah. But it's also not okay for us to reciprocate and call, ghost or, call names or make accusations that we don't have that full understanding of either. Right. And so in all relationships, it goes both ways. And I do agree that leaders go first. And if we actually want to make a change in the culture, that we need to change ourselves as leaders. And I think that is the harder part of the conversation, because as a leader, the toxicity I bring here is rooted in the toxicity that's in here. If I'm really, really comfortable speaking unkindly to people out here, it's probably because I'm thoroughly well rehearsed to speaking unkindly to the person closest to me, which is myself. And, so that culture inside becomes the culture outside. And I think our young people are inviting us to a conversation that says, wait a minute, our mental health matters, what's going on inside matters, how we show up with empathy and emotion matters. Let's own that responsibility, let's pursue that maturity. And depending on which generation we come through, we have different hurdles to jump.
Right, and just so as a leader, it's listening.
Yeah.
Right? It's shutting off the voice that might be in the back of the head. It's just listening to what your employees are asking for and saying, and invite them into conversations.
Yes, and I think there's sometimes a lot of fear, especially for bosses, that if they lean into empathy, it means they have to just do whatever is asked. Right. And I don't think anybody has that expectation. But I do think there's an opportunity to co-develop a solution. This idea that I'm willing to listen to what my team has to say, and then I'm also able to share the perspectives that maybe they don't have. And together we can say, here's the situation. How do we solve this so that we both are taken care of in this, that we both get the things that we need out of this, that the business outcomes that we need to achieve, we can still do. How do we get on the same side of the table?
Right, and I think that's got to be such a special piece for you to be able to be a part of and to facilitate those conversations in workplaces.
It's one of my favorite things because I think it's harder than ever to get along. And there are a lot of polarizing influences between social media and economics and politics and all the things that get us all hot under the collar, and then just our own difficulties and our own pain and our own disappointment and regret. All of these things pull at us and steal connection from us. And I think, our world is better when we can have real connection.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nikki. I really appreciate your time. With that, we'll be right back after this.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Sports is life. It's clear cut. Everything's out in the open. There's nowhere to hide.